Hey, it's Mother Funny Time with Andie and Angie.
2 cousins, 8 kids, 1 grandkid, 2 states.
And a whole lot of fun. Woo! Welcome back, Mother Funny Tribe. It's Angie and Andy, and we're planning to talk to you today about things. What are we planning to talk about?
All the things.
This is Angie and Andy's True Crime Mother Funny podcast and sports analysis.
Excellent.
That's what we are.
Excellent. I love it.
For some reason, we're like shooting up the charts now.
We are all the categories.
We're all the categories. True crime, mother, help. I don't know. Anyway, as promised, we are going to talk about planning and prepping as your child moves from elementary to junior high to high school, and what the end of high school looks like to help your heart.
We're aware
Say
that
something.
it's March. Like we're aware of the date.
Yes, we are like Hobby Lobby in that we are prepping you now for the fall. Summer's already in clearance. It's 90% off for summer stuff. We are already in the fall because this season is wrapping up, but the spring is when you have to get ready for the fall, for school, for sports. I mean, I know right now, like Angie and I were talking, if your child is going from junior high to high school right now, you have to be on top of the sports thing. Like, there's already tryouts for fall sports. Am I right or am I right?
You are right.
Or am I right?
Yes. You are right. It's true. Well, and Riley's going from middle school to high school. Next year, Riley will be in high school. And yes, exactly what Andy said. Last week, Riley tried out for cheerleading for the next school year. Like, she's literally in middle school right now. And this was before spring break. Like, she tried out for next year. She tried out for the 24-25 cheerleading team before spring break. So it's kind of like living in two different worlds because we just literally came off of like Martin Luther King Jr. weekend and President's Day weekend, and some of us have had spring break, some of us are preparing for spring break, some of us get like extra random snow days thrown in there for a break, but then it's also like, yes, and start planning for fall. And for those of us who maybe have like an elementary school child who will go to middle school or junior high next year, or who have a middle school child who will go to high school, it's trying to live in those two worlds of I'm preparing now, and my walking with my child is it's the last, like Andy talked about last podcast about sometimes it's the last. Like Riley's in 8th grade. This is her last spring at I'm not going to say that. This is her last spring at middle school. You know, so it's also she's walking through the last while at the same time preparing for the first of high school. And yes, that's our children, but it's also the moms. Like when Riley cheered at her last football game, it was this moment of like, oh my gosh, that's the last football game, or that now you're cheering at the last basketball game. And so you're walking with your child through the last, and you're taking pictures of your child, and you're talking with them about what they're going through, while at the exact same time, in this like winter spring moment, you're also preparing for next year. And there's so many emotions for the children that they're going through, but it's also what the moms are going through, whether that's your first, your middle, your, the youngest. And I think like Andy mentioned last week, like Andy mentioned in the last podcast, like when it's your youngest, you're almost realizing like, oh my gosh, this is the last of the last. Well, then you're still preparing for the first of the first. So as moms, we're experiencing that with our children, and not many people are out there talking about what moms go through as they are helping their children and supporting them through this season.
Which is a true crime. It's a true crime.
Nice. It's amazing.
I know. That's what I'm here for. Yeah, and I think, like, let's start talking about that jump from elementary school to junior high, because that is a mega jump. I mean, emotionally, that's when it's like that 5th grade to 6th grade, or for some schools, 6th grade to 7th grade. Like, there is such a change in hormones for the kids, in, like, freedom. And the way things, like, they're more babied in elementary school, and then all of a sudden they go to junior high, and it's a whole new world. They're going to be changing classes. They're going to be meeting kids from other schools. So now you have schools feeding in to this school. So they'll have some friends that'll go to a different junior high or whatever, but there'll be a whole new group of schools. So even the cool kids who were cool in elementary, you don't know, because now all those cool kids are being brought together from the different schools. And so then you have like all that to navigate, which that's an issue in junior high because junior high is very difficult. And the kids that maybe you had learned your kids didn't get along with or whatever, like now you have a new set of kids you have to learn how to navigate. And your kids have to learn that as a parent. Maybe you've had built good friendships in elementary. Well, now you're moving to junior high and you're going to, as a parent, meet new parents. Or maybe you won't meet parents as much because parents aren't always as involved in junior high. So it's a big step going from elementary to junior high. I remember being terrified as a kid. I mean, excited, but also it was scary. We rode the bus for the first time. School was further away. Like elementary schools are usually closer to home. Junior highs, you have to travel further. What do you think, Angie? You're closer to all this happening.
It's also the lunch situation. Like in elementary school, lunch is very controlled. You sit here with your class. You walk in this way. This is the line. You sit over there, you do that. Now you have 5 minutes to go to the bathroom before you then go to recess. Like it's very, very controlled and monitored when you are in elementary school. And all of a sudden, it's middle school and it's like, okay, sit with whoever. You kind of have this time. Are you going to eat? Are you not going to eat? That's up to you. Are there even teachers monitoring this? I don't even know what goes down when it comes to like middle school lunch.
It's the Wild West.
Yeah, and like you're talking about if kids have your core group of friends from elementary school, maybe they went to different schools. So now you're not having lunch with them. You're not seeing them on a day-to-day basis. Or maybe they have lunch at a different period. So if you have A lunch and they have C lunch, well, your closest group of friends, you might not end up having lunch with them at all because they have lunch at a different time. So now it's okay, who do you eat lunch with? And as a mom, I mean, think about it, how you dealt with it. Like that's what your kids are going through. But also trying to support your kids and listen to them and walk with them. And could you try this or could you try that? But then you can't tell your kids too much what to do because we can't control them.
Especially at that age.
No, you can't micromanage them. No, you cannot.
And I think moms are probably even more concerned for our kids than our kids might even be. I mean, I know I was way more concerned for my kids. But also I remember what it was like back in the late 80s, early 90s, going into junior high. Like, what was the year? I graduated 95 from high school. I can't do the math right
90?
now. Anyway.
Would have been like 89, 90, 91.
Yeah, like 89, 90, where it was the Wild West. And we went from like a control, like you got cafeteria lunch. It was the same thing everyone was eating. You went through the line, you got your stuff, you sat down, or you brought your lunch. Junior high, you could buy French fries and candy and have that for lunch. We had Hawaiian punch in cans, and you have these kids all of a sudden we're like, what? We can have literally like for lunch, I'll have like Starburst and French fries and wash it down with a nice Dr. Pepper, and nobody cares.
No.
Nobody's watching. And so you have a bunch of like preteens amped up on sugar and also hormonally imbalanced and very awkward feeling. And then you all of a sudden have like more of a hierarchy of who's cool, who's not. I don't know how it is now. I'm just reliving my past. But when you project that onto your kids, you're like, oh my gosh, they're about to go in the lion's den and they're going to have fries and Hawaiian punch for lunch. But it's not the 80s, 90s anymore. But you have those fears. Am I the only one? Like, don't walk alone. Don't talk to strangers. I don't know. Eat healthy. Keep your head down. I'm like giving them advice as if they were going to prison. I'm like, keep your head down. Don't look the aggressive ones in the eye. Try to not make your name. But if somebody picks on you, you got to be extra strong so that they know who they're dealing with. Like, you want to warn them. But anyway, that's me.
There's also more options when it comes to eating. Like you're talking about, like in the sense of at elementary school, it's very controlled. But now, like once you get into middle school, there's like different lines. Like if you want the Italian food, you come over here. If you want, basic lunch, it's over there. So even just their variety, there's so much more to that they can. And okay, since it's spring and I know we're talking to moms about preparing or what you're going through, like I just got the email from the district and they're like, hey, lunch is going up $1. Again, cafeteria lunch is going up $1. And I'm like, man, you guys, it went up $1 last year and now it's going up another $1. Like, come on, I'm aware of this. And it gets expensive. And in elementary schools, a lot of them, they took out vending machines. You probably know that. That just does not happen. And this year, you guys, it's the worst. It's like a prank, but it's actually happening in real time.
What?
Our school, the elementary school, put in a vending machine. Do you know what is in the vending machine?
What?
Books. No joke. It's books.
Like, can't they just go to the library or no?
No, they can. You can go to the school little library, but if you...
Why don't they have...
It's so horrible.
Okay. They just didn't care about us in junior high. That's all I have to say. They're like, here's Pepsi and a Snickers. There's your lunch. We really don't care. But now kids get books. I see.
It's this special vending machine.
Sunlight.
No, it's the worst thing because my kids...
Do kids use it?
You have to like earn it and get a certain amount of points and then you get a coin and then it's this whole thing and it's like a whole like reward system. Okay, I get the idea behind it, but the reward is a book. Like
at the library.
Come on.
But you can go to the library. Books are free.
Exactly.
At your public library. Thank you, public library.
Thank you to the public libraries. But there's actually a library at the school as well. Like why they couldn't just have a section of, hey, if you guys earn a reward, you get these, choose from these free books. The whole thing doesn't make sense. They hyped it up huge. Like we're getting a vending machine. We're getting a vending machine. And then they filled it with books. When the twins told me, I thought it was a joke. I legit thought they were joking and it was funny. And I'm like, you guys, haha, this is so great. Like what a funny joke. No, it's books. And I'm like, okay, so maybe it doesn't have to be soda, but maybe we could have like a water or a juice in a vending machine, not a book.
But I mean, at least elementary school, we didn't have vending machines back in the 80s. I like to just keep bringing it back to my child experience. But even Daisy's school, when she went to elementary in the 90s, no, early 2000s. Early 2000s, she went, elementary school didn't have them, but they had ice cream they could buy at the end of the week for 25 cents, which Friday, that was fantastic. They could buy ice cream. So, yeah, if they were like, we're not going to do ice cream anymore, but you can earn a book, or you could just go to the library and check it out. Or, if you're really good, you can work towards a book. In Mississippi, Daisy's junior high, because they wanted, in Mississippi, we were known as the most obese state, and they were trying to work on that. And so they took all of the sugar sodas out, and they put in diet sodas and diet power drinks. And I was like, well, I love me a diet soda, but I don't know if this is the correct direction we need to be going, but this sounds more like my childhood, so I get it.
They put in diet soda?
They put in diet soda.
Why not just do like Gatorades and Powerades and water and juice? Is that not cool? Maybe that's not cool.
I don't know. They were just like, we got to try something. Let's throw in some diet soda. They might have done some diet Gatorade, or do they have diet Gatorade? I don't know. They might have done something else, but yeah, that's what it was. But that's the difference. Okay, elementary school, they really care, but then now you have a child, and it is more the Wild West. Their kids are starting to have more freedoms in their lives. Language is a little tougher. Boy-girl things get a little more spicier. Things start like getting a little more scary. And then add into that, they can now have Coke for lunch. So it's a big transition. And then changing teachers. Like remembering where to go and homerooms and science class and all that. It's big. It's a big deal.
You also have to remember that there's now cell phones and technology as part of it too, which is huge because in elementary school, nobody has a cell phone. Remember when Fitbit was huge? Like,
yes.
Oh, that was a big deal in elementary school. Like, Riley didn't have one, and she was like one of the only kids who didn't have a Fitbit in like 3rd grade because Fitbit was so huge. Isn't it funny how like there's just cycles of what's cool and what's not cool? Like Hydro Flask and Fitbit were all the rage in elementary school. But then as you go into middle school and high school, I mean, almost everybody has a cell phone. So it's also this idea of navigating, changing classes, new teachers, homework. Are there lockers? Do you know how to use the lock? You know, how to figure out a lock if they actually have one on the locker. I mean, that's can be an issue. I mean, we had to like practice with Riley about like how to use the lock correctly because that, and boy, it was in intermediate school when they had that lock. Everybody knew like, hey, these locks just don't work. Like they're really bad. I mean, people like even counselors and teachers warned the parents like just so you know these locks aren't very good. So you really had to work with them on like how to do that even specific lock really well. But now throw in technology, and as a mom, like how do you help your child navigate that? Or hey, you have a cell phone but it's not the latest updated version, or what are your rules, or what are the school's rules, or what's allowed and what's not allowed. And you're trying to support your child also knowing that like maybe your family does something different, and what is your response to your child, and then also helping them to have a response to their friends, because that's part of it, is talking with your child and helping them know what to say when they are questioned or when they have something that's different than others or their family's doing something different. Well, helping them have a reply instead of just being like, I don't know, my family's crazy, or like my mom's weird. I mean, sometimes I just tell Riley, like, just blame it on me. Just tell him like your mom won't let you have that. Like,
I know, I'm cool. It's fine.
Like,
I'm not a regular mom. I'm a cool
that's
mom.
right. Like, I'll take the fall for this one. But to kind of help them with that as they are beginning to go or prepare to go to a whole new, brand new school.
Yes. And speaking of all that, like that puts such like a financial burden too on the child, especially like when things start to get more cooler, and then you have to have these clothes, you have to have this technology. And this is a little different subject that we should talk about another time, but like I just read an article about it was called like financial dysmorphia, where kids, because things are so expensive now, kids don't have a real understanding of how much money they actually have, or they think that they're more wealthy than they are, or they don't understand because they're now like they have $100,000 cell phones in their pocket, and it's like their normal everyday thing, or they have these clothes, these Lululemons that are, you know, $70 stretch pants, or 70, that's a sale price stretch pants. But you know what I'm saying? Like they have, and their makeup, we already talked about makeup. I know, I'm thinking I only go to the clearance really.
No, I like that you called them stretch pants.
I know, instead of leggings. I'm back in the 80s and 90s, you guys. We had the stretch pants with the stirrups on the bottom so they wouldn't slip up. You know, like
yes!
Stirrupped under your feet.
Yes! The cotton one.
That's going to come. Watch. Somebody, the mom who invented the high-rise pants and the clogs, who's put that into the mix now, she's going to add stirrups.
I mean, bodysuits are
Just
back
watch.
in. I'm like, I never did that in the first place.
Yeah.
Some things just aren't practical.
Oh, I rocked bodysuits. Yeah. Practical, no. But yes. Yes. And oh my gosh, these vests. Okay, there is something else that's happening. Like thrift stores are renewed, like their coolness. I don't know if it's where I live. But like we were passing a thrift store and there was this rack of clothing and there was a vest, I kid you not, I'm sure your mom had as a homeschool mom in the 90s. Like it's amazing. It's like this patriotic knit, like not knit, but like sewed applique with like flags. And if I showed you, you're like, I'm sure my mom had this vest. Like think of your aunt's clothes in the 90s, early 2000s, or all your mom and her friends. Those are back. Shiloh found it, fell in love with this vest, was like, I have to buy this vest. It was $3. I'm like, and we had to go get cash to buy it. She's like, we need to hide it. I'm like, Shella, nobody's going to mind this vest. Like, I think it's safe. So no, we go back, we buy it. She gets it. I'm dying. I'm like, this is hilarious. It was the most appreciated piece of clothing she's ever had amongst all her friends, strangers. Everywhere we went, people complimented her. One of her friends offered her $50 for it. And then went and found another one just like it on Etsy or something. Yes. So there is a new trend, which I'm hoping this really moves in this direction, because kids aren't made of money and we're not made of money. So I'm going to move on from that.
Cargo pants are back in. I just saw and I was so excited. I got
Were you? Were they low rise?
Dude, I was like, yes. And you know what else is in right now? Jean skirts. Jean skirts, like the long jean skirts like that all the homeschoolers wore. And I'm allowed to say that because I was homeschooled. Long jean skirts are in and cargo pants are in. And guess what else is coming back in? Cargo skirts, like jean cargo skirts. Like it's this whole, like they like combined this. I just saw that and I was like, you know what? I'm so excited. Like I will do this.
Are you going to wear them?
I'm wearing them. I'm going to go buy some. I can't even tell you like how excited I am about cargo pants. I mean, first when cords came back and I was like, okay, I love cords, but cargo pants are my favorite. Even like the baggy cargo pants. Like that style is coming back in, and I am thrilled.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean.
I'm so thrilled.
Like, I mean, they have pockets all down them. You can hold your keys in there. You can hold your AirPods. You can put your phone in there. You could put some lippy in there. You could put snacks. You can have all kinds of snacks in those pockets.
Every mom needs cargo pants. That's what this is. Cargo pants are the preschool mom pants. Like all of us moms
so this
with preschoolers, yes.
You got diapers, wipes, butt ointment, all that stuff.
Forget the like sling bag. We're just all going to start wearing our cargo pants. Your cell phone will fit in there and like some cheese crackers. I mean, it's a whole set. I did want to ask you before we have to go, though, because you guys have really gone through a lot of the, like, transitions of, like, okay, Shiloh was homeschooled, and then she went to public high school. And there was a lot for you to kind of go through with being, like, a homeschool mom to then a public school mom and a high school mom. But then also now it's like, oh, my gosh, she went from high school to college. And with that transition, and like we're talking about, we're aware that it's spring and it's not fall, and this is not our back to school.
But it's when it starts.
Podcast, but it is when it starts. And a lot of people, I think, who don't understand moms, don't understand that moms are dealing with this today. Like we're already looking forward to next school year in the sense of we're making the plans now.
My daughter would say no shot, which means totally, like for real.
No shot?
Yeah, I've said something to her. She's like, no shot.
All I could think of is like, shot.
I'm thinking like she's putting, that's like a, I don't know. Anyway, yes, you know what, the big jump from junior high to high school, we're going to talk about that because I don't know about how your district is, but in my district, our kids are allowed to go whatever high school in our district. We have in Huntington Beach, there's like 4 or 5 or 6 in our school district, high schools, that they can choose which one they go to. And there's like 2 kind of equidistant from us, and there's one that was a little further. And so we like, especially being new and not really knowing people in the public, we knew people in the public school system, but not necessarily her grade in our area. So we ended up we toured this school, we fell in love with it, but there was a whole touring process in the spring. And then we had to find out like the sports. We learned about the sports there, which if I had really known, if we were just going for the sports, I would have picked a different school because the school she went to was a much more, like, it was just harder to get into the teams. Like we've talked about this before. Angie and I have talked about how sports are totally different. I know we mentioned it before, but now for a child to get into like say the high school team, they can't just go and decide I'd like to play volleyball. I'm going to join the team. No, like you have to have been in club for so long to be able to make the high school team. It's not just tryouts anymore. You know, it's a whole different ballgame. So even knowing that, like, what sport does your child want to play? Where would they be able to play that sport? And then you're looking for good teachers, good, you know, administration. You're looking for a healthy student population. We ended up going to a school that had, she had friends and she really thrived at that school. It was like the best school for her to go to. But we also had to start picking her classes. And you have to know, you have to have a good idea of what kind of college your child wants to go to when they go from junior high to high school. If they're going to go to a 4-year college, then there's requirements they're going to need to get to those colleges. If they're going to go to community college, it's different. If they're going to universities, there's even different like language. If my daughter wanted to take sign language, well, sign language wasn't considered a foreign language for some colleges. Some colleges, yes, some colleges, no. She still went that route. But these are all the decisions you're making even now, like before your child starts high school. Like we had to wrestle with, okay, what kind of college is she going to want to go to? What kind of extracurricular activity should we be looking at? So there's a lot of pressure. And then and just like needing to know this stuff early, before your child graduates, there's a ton, like you should have been prepared like a year before they graduate. Honestly, like stuff we were doing her senior year, I'm like, man, we should have done this back in her junior year. Like the school tours, because that, again, deciding what school you want to go to depends on what classes you take. Like, are you taking all these AP classes, but that you're going somewhere that doesn't necessarily accept AP classes? Like colleges are funding on AP classes now and all those different things. Anyway, some of them want this many years of math. Some of them want this many years. Some want 3 years, some want 4 years. And there's things like we found out a little later, like when she decided what school she wanted. So she ended up having to take an extra year of math over the summer through the junior college, which is a whole other thing. When you're in high school, you can usually take free college classes. At the junior college, do dual enrollment. That's a whole other thing. We should do a whole podcast on dual enrollment because that's a whole new ballgame. But all these things come up and it kind of starts, I don't want to scare people, but you have to think of even college in 8th grade when your child's getting ready to move into high school. And I'm sure you guys have gone through that because you have a child who's moving to high school. Have you had to go through some of that stuff?
It was in February. And they had a day, it was an evening, and it was on a Wednesday. And yes, if you had an 8th grader, you went to the high school, and they had tables set up in this one huge giant room, and it was all the electives to help kids understand what electives would be available to them if they wanted to participate in those electives in high school. And so Riley and I went, and she did a great job. Like, she stayed with me, and I was like, we're going to get all the papers. And she was like, Mom. And I was like, I want all the papers. I want all the information. And so I was collecting all the papers because you go to like a table and you would talk with them and then they'd give you a handout. Some people didn't have a handout. So I was taking pictures of like that information so we would have it. Because at a lot of high schools, they even have like specific tracks. So it's like if you want to be on this like public service track, you go on this one. If you want to be on the engineering track, and then there's specific electives you take to go on these tracks. But if you want to be able to take this class in 11th grade, well, you need to take this elective in 9th grade, which means you have to sign up and be prepared on this track.
Yes.
And like you're talking about, when it comes to a foreign language, some colleges do not take American Sign Language, but Riley really wants to take ASL. And so to make that decision in 8th grade, okay, you're going to take ASL in high school because that's what you want to take, and I support that. Just be aware there's specific colleges that will not accept ASL as your foreign language. And so either one, you won't go to that college, or maybe you'll have to take some random summer classes of Spanish if that's what you want to do. And I'm looking at her, it's February of 8th grade.
She's 14.
Okay, and we're now deciding specific colleges that you will not go to because you want to take ASL.
Yeah.
And it was amazing because I talked to this one counselor because I was going to talk to everybody and I was going to get all the information I could. And this one counselor was like, actually, if you go to this specific website, it has a list of all the colleges that do accept ASL as their foreign language. And there's a ton of colleges. There's a ton. So people, if they try to scare you and they're like, so many colleges do not accept ASL as a foreign language. No, there's a specific website. You go to it. There's a whole list. So yes, there is a possibility.
Yes. And you know what? Shiloh started ASL as a freshman. And what they say is if you stick through all 4 years, you become bilingual, like certified. But the college she goes to didn't take ASL as a foreign language, so she is taking Spanish at the school. And I think she was thinking of taking Spanish. You could do it at the junior college as well, but there's ways to get around it for sure. But yeah, you have to think about that. Like, I remember that was a discussion. I'm like, you should take Spanish. She's like, but I really want to take ASL. And I'm like, that's such a cool program. And then going to these back to school nights or information nights, parents, especially like if this is your first time, but even if you have other kids, I would say go to these. You learn so much. When we went to Shiloh's, that's where we learned about MUN, Model United Nations, and that you had to start as a freshman. You couldn't join any other grade. You had to start as a freshman. And it's big where we were, but it's changed like the trajectory of her life. This MUN class, it's an elective, but it's also an honors class all rolled into one.
In 8th grade, when you're learning about this and that decision, like you go to one meeting and that decision and you learn something, well, now like change the trajectory of her life. Like these are big, huge decisions. Yes. And you guys, okay, it's a good thing I'd have no shame and I don't get embarrassed very easily. Literally after like we had this elective like experience and I was talking to everyone and it was really informative. I'm so glad I went. And then they had like a PowerPoint presentation. Maybe they call them slides now. I don't know. It looked pretty much like a PowerPoint presentation.
Were they wearing cargo pants and they showed it?
If it wasn't PowerPoint, it was close. I was like...
Were they drinking a Hawaiian punch in a can?
They were using words.
Were they smoking a cigarette? Was Clippy on there to tell them how to do everything?
It's like, wow, okay, this is where we're at. I could follow this. This was great. And they did say, hey, all this information will be on the website in a few days. I knew that would not be soon enough for Riley because she could not stay for the whole presentation because she had to go to a tumbling class. And so she went with me to the elective part and then she left and then I went to the presentation part. And I literally sat there. And every slide, I took pictures. I like raised my cell phone and like I took pictures of every slide. No one else was doing it. Maybe if there was a super important one, like one or two parents might take a picture. But I knew after Riley's tumbling class, like she was going to want to know everything that was talked about in that presentation. And I'm so glad I did that and that I'm not embarrassed to be the only parent taking pictures of every single slide. Because then we had that information even a few days before everybody else, but then we could even talk through it and go through it a little bit slower. And then once it was like put on the website or whatever, and we could even work through it. But then you have to fill out the paperwork, and they actually want you to fill out a whole paper of the next 4 years in high school. Because you're choosing your tracks, you're choosing your electives, you're trying to figure out this goes here, this goes there. And now I kind of see like, oh, I get how seniors have an easier year than these poor like 9th and 10th graders. Like your year is slammed. Those 2 years, it's like
and
heavy
juniors.
Academics. Yeah, and juniors, it's a lot. And then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, seniors. Now I've always heard like, oh, seniors, it's not as hard of a year for a lot of seniors. And now after filling out this form, I was like, oh, that makes sense. I see why it could be like this. Again, this is all happening and going down in February of her 8th grade year. I didn't know this happened.
I mean, she already tried out for high school sports. And, talking to friends, like their child wants to play, who's the same age as Riley, their child wants to play in high school basketball. And so they're having to like get trainers now and join the right, teams and all of that goes into it. So yeah, it's a lot. And for moms, like we know that our kids have a lot of pressure and they're going through hormones, but we also like love our kids so much and we want the best for them that it's a lot. And we plan and we go to these meetings and we have no chill and we take pictures of everything. Chris had no chill at the freshman when Shiloh was in 8th grade. He was taking pictures of everything. He was like, Shiloh, come over here. And she's like, yes. Dad, I'm trying to be invisible. And Chris is like, hey, everyone. And I'm like, now you could say, like, it doesn't matter if parents have chill because kids aren't going to care. Everybody's worried about themselves. But yes, there's so many things. And it's okay if you make mistakes. Like we signed our daughter up. We got sucked into this one program. She did it for a year. It wasn't super helpful and it was super stressful. And that's okay. That was her freshman year. She moved on. So I don't want it to come across like it's going to make or break their life. How they transition from junior high to high school, it's going to be okay. But just be aware, like be there, be involved. Be their little cheerleader. Help them through. It's hard, mamas. And it's hard for you. So go buy yourself a latte. That's my tip or trick.
I think it's a great tip or trick. And I think it's good to talk about this kind of stuff just so that way moms know, like, you're not the only mom taking pictures of the slides that will be posted 3 days later. Or, like, you're not the only mom kind of going, oh, my gosh, because sometimes, like what our district did, it was great and fantastic. They decided to have all these meetings in the same week. And I'm like, really? Like, I have so many kids in different extracurricular activities, and I had to kind of, like, plan that whole week based off of all of a sudden all these meetings I had to go to because you don't want to miss it. And just know for these moms out there trying to juggle just a regular schedule, like our lives are already busy enough. Apparently we also have to feed our kids dinner, which is like a never ending thing, and then go to these huge meetings.
They keep wanting to eat. And then that's it. We won't even get into it because we're out of time. But then there's all the parents who are struggling with IEPs. Like we just want you to know we love you. Hang in there. I don't even know. I don't have any tip or trick for you, but just know you were seen and heard and we love you. So that's it.
So like us. We like you.
Share us.
So like us.
We like you. We love you. So share us. Tell us about your IEP experience.
And tell a friend while you're at it about Mother Funny.
About your IEP experience and Mother Funny and the Mother Funny True Crime Podcast and Sports Analysis.
It's a good time.
All right. Bye, everyone. All right. That's all we have time for today. We got to wrap it up, unfortunately. But just remember, you might think you're doing just okay, but we think you're doing really great.
Thanks for hanging out with us today. We hope you have a great Mother Funny day. Please like and share our podcast.
But please don't tell our moms.